soon as I know like a meal's coming, I'm going to go just maybe take 2 mason jars, add some sea salt to it. I'm going to down them and then I'm good. And then, 5, 10 minutes later, I can start the eating process. And I chew my food up very well. So then that gets the digestive juices rolling as well. So on top of that, another low hanging fruit is, let's say you eat good quality proteins or fats and that makes you constipated. That's almost a surefire sign you're not making enough enzymes or acids. So some people, they really do poor with enzymes and acids, and it reveals itself through animal products. Now, a lot of people, when that happens, guess what their natural tendency is? Oh,
Unfortunately,
it's,
they're going to
go
go
ahead.
vegetarian or,
Yeah. Oh, it's the meat that's so bad for my gut. The meat that's in my intestinal tract for days and days. It's rotting in there.
oh,
According
yeah.
to documentaries, I have to cut out the animal products. Well, it's just a sign that your enzymes and your acids are really poor. And the meat is revealing that. Now, what's the solution? Now, in the meantime, you may want to drop down some of the meat that you're doing or some of the protein or fat you're doing just to kind of lessen some of the stress off the intestinal tract. But the first thing we'll do before that is we'll add in some HCl and some enzymes, maybe even some bile salts. We'll see how much that starts to correct it. And then if we need, then we can drop the animal protein and fat down a little bit if we need. Now, if your intestinal tract's really messed up, you may have to do an elemental or a bone broth fast or something more liquid based to make it easier on your intestines. So everyone's a little bit different. And we have a lot of clinical experience about being able to meet someone where they're at so we can get optimal results.
Yeah, and it's sad that the meat gets the blame, and all, like you said, all these documentaries that'll pop up on Netflix, they're all like majority, anti-meat, vegetarian, vegan documentaries. And then you kind of have to help clients because sometimes we'll get clients that have not listened to enough of us where we haven't convinced them to get back on meat. I actually had a vegan or ex-vegan client come to me last week. She said she was a vegan for 6 years and she got back on meat with the help of listening to our podcast. And she says she feels better than she ever has, which is amazing. She was able to transition back onto meat without necessarily a bunch of supplemental enzymes. But in most cases, yeah, we're going to come in due to, and people may say, why do I need the supplement? Well, we don't live in a world where you're sitting on the edge of a cliff overlooking a river valley with no stress and, hunter gatherer average work 18 hours a week. We're not doing that anymore. We're working 40, 60-hour work weeks. We've got kids, we've got technology, we've got smartphones taking our attention away. We're scrolling and bowling at Chipotle, looking at our phone while we're eating, or we're stressed from bills and mortgages and obligations and whatever. And age, by the time you're age 40, 50, 60, you're not making hardly any enzymes and acids compared to when you were younger. So all those
Yes.
factors add up. That is the answer of why. Why do you need enzymes to support you, and how do enzymes help you poop? Well, because when that food is digesting better, your body's going to be able to get rid of what it doesn't need. And if you have a lot of malabsorption problems, you may see undigested food in the stool. And over time, I've noticed people just adding in a handful of berries a day was all we needed to really clear up their issues. Once we got all the gut infections, enzymes in the, infections resolved, enzymes put in, if they still needed help, we'll go into a couple other things you want to get into, but a handful of blueberries. I mean, that does a lot.
So it just kind of going back to some of the vegan stuff. So I always tell my patients, well, in general, I eat more non-starchy vegetables. Most paleo people eat more non-starchy vegetables than vegans do. Most vegans I find have lots of processed carbohydrate. They have lots of grains, lots of lentils or legumes, and they don't typically eat tons of non-starchy vegetables. It's difficult on the vegan side. Most don't do it right. Now, if you're going to be a vegan, you need to do lots of good fats from avocado and coconuts, and you probably need some kind of an amino acid supplement from rice or pea protein or some kind of an algae kind of protein source, because most aren't doing it right if you're going to do it that way. But number two is sometimes the vegetables can jack you up too, especially if they're raw, because a lot of that fiber, or if the vegetables are higher in fermentable carbohydrates, some can be like garlic and onions and broccoli and asparagus, they can be higher in FODMAPs. And FODMAPs can be fertilizer for a lot of the SIBO-based bacteria. So if you have a lot of bad bacteria that's producing maybe more methane, and some of those vegetables start to feed some of that methane producing bacteria, that may make you more constipated too. So I've seen some patients do better more with the meats than with a lot of the plants. So I've seen it go both ways. And, it's hard because if let's say you're one person and you had an experience where you went vegan and you felt great. Well, guess what? You only have your experience. I've seen patients that have gone carnivore and felt great. And so because we have this perspective where we've seen dozens of people do great from different things, that allows us to form a unbiased clinical recommendation on what we think is best for the patient, because we've seen successes work from both sides. And the question is, we don't have a dogmatic belief in, oh, well, this is what does it. Well, this is why it would do it for this person, and this is maybe why it does it for you. And we're gonna move the levers around, because the goal isn't to do this thing, it's to get you the results. So it's really important that if you're working with someone, kind of talking to patients that are out there, you want to work with someone that's results driven, not process driven, meaning, hey, you have to do this diet. This is the most important thing. This should get you the results, versus, hey, no, I want to get you these results. We're going to try pulling some of these levers and see what happens as a result. And then we'll go backwards from there. So just really important. You want to make sure you're working with someone that's results driven, not necessarily, dogma driven, if you will.
That's another great soundbite.